Welcome to another Word of Torah. I'm Rod Bryant, and along with me is Moshe Abrahams. He
Hey.
is in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel,
Yeah.
which, they're talking about returning hostages. And I just found out yesterday, there were some that are on the list that are dead. And that's really sad
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
May the merit of us studying the words of the Torah bring wholeness to the families and peace to the family.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So we are in Genesis still, and we just
Yeah.
came out of Parshas, or just went through the flood period with Noah and on the ark,
Yeah.
etc. So where are we at now?
So we're in about chapter 7, verse 11,
Okay,
and we're talking about being in the 600th year of
correct.
Noah's life. Yeah.
Correct. So before we go, just remember, guys, subscribe. We really appreciate that. Also, Moshe has his own YouTube channel. It's called youtube.com/Word of Torah.
That's
I
the
always have
forward
to
slash.
pause there because it just gives it
Yeah.
forward
Because
slash.
it confuses each time, does it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
also, you can email Moshe at mosheteaches@gmail.com, mosheteaches@gmail.com. Ask him all the hard questions. Okay, let's get right to the text itself. So,
Absolutely. So this is the verse that we finished on last time. So I'll rush us through it quickly. Beshinat sheish me'ot shana. The shana is the year. So this is in the year of 600 years. L'chayei Noach, for the life of Noach. B'chodesh hasheni, in the second month. Beshiva Shiva Eser, in the 17th Yom, in the 17th day, Lechodesh of the month. So we're getting really precise dates, in terms of history. But Yom Hazeh, in this day, Nikavu Kol Ma'anot. Now this is a really weird thing because we're describing something. It's clearly some sort of a metaphor, but we don't know what exactly is a metaphor describing. But Nikavu is to break open something. And we have like the binyanim. We've talked before about the different kind of intensities of verbs. And one of them is when you add a nun on the beginning, I'm going to make it purple because it's one of the binyanim, you can have what's called a nifal. And that means to be done to. Rather than
right.
to break open, they were broken open.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that is when you get a passive verb, you don't mention who's doing the verb. We don't mention who's breaking open. Kol ma'anot, call all the wells to home of the deep.
Right.
Rabbah, the great deep. So there's this great deep. In the bottom of the great deep, there are these wells of water of the great deep. They're being broken open, but it's deliberately not mentioning who. We know whenever anything really amazing happening, it's God doing it, right?
Correct.
So God's the one breaking
Yeah.
open, but we have to infer this because it's not explicit. So God's breaking open the wells of the deep to home, Rabbah, the great deep. Va'arubot hashemayim, and the chimneys of heaven, niftachu, they are opening, they are being opened.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not just happening random. Someone is doing them. Someone is expressing their will on these things and causing this to happen. But it's
Right.
deliberately not mentioning it. And I wonder if it's because this is the reverse of creation. When we had creation, God separated between waters above the thinness and the waters below the thinness, and then took the flow below and separated it so that there was a dryness in the middle, and that became earth. And so
Right.
now God's reversing this process.
It sure appears that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we know it's He that does it, but we don't want to we don't want to draw the because it's a heartbreaking thing. God doesn't want to bring destruction, but
Right.
sometimes He has to. Sometimes destruction is part of creation. Sometimes you have to
Right.
say we can't allow this kind of violence to go on, and this is all in response to the terrible violence.
And we
that's
have to
been happening.
remember, you cannot destroy something without deconstruction, meaning the reverse of construction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a fact. You tear
Yeah.
a building down and you build it up and you tear it down. It's deconstruction. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we want things just to be positive and creative all the time, then we've got to bring positivity, and we've got to,
Correct.
adhere to the laws of God, and protect the weak and all this kind of stuff. But as soon as you get to where everything becomes corrupted, which is what happened in the days of Noah,
Hmm.
there was terrible violence, there was terrible corruption, there was terrible cruelty, there was the screams of the innocent, and so God brought the destruction to end all of that.
Right.
So we can't really be violent and complain when violence propagates. This is a little timeline. I always like looking for new every year when I come around to this part of the Torah. I look for another time. Has anyone got a
Right.
good timeline for this? So this is 600th year, second month, 17th day. This is when the flood is starting, when the wells of the deep are being broken open and the
Hmm.
chimneys of the heaven are being opened, and then it's going to be 40 days and 40 nights, and then the ark is going to be lifted off the ground and floats away. And then for another 110 days, there's going to be the waters are going to be becoming strengthened and strengthened. We'll see that language in a minute. And then they'll start to subside, and it'll take another 128 days for them to subside. The ark is going to arrive on Mount Ararat. There's a Mount
Hmm.
Ararat in Turkey. It may be the same mountain. We just don't know. Then there's going to be the sending out of the raven and the dove, and then there's going to be eventually they stop returning. They find rest themselves, and then there's
Right.
another. It's until another 370 days, the whole process,
Hmm.
before the earth is dry enough for them to come out of the ark. So that's the process we're about to go in here now. Now, I just wanted to bring up as well, because we have a kind of secular Chaloni calendar, with Januaries and Decembers in them, but we've also got the Hebrew calendar based on the Bible. And
Correct.
so that has these months here, which are it's what's called a luni-solar calendar, which makes
Hmm.
it sound crazy, but
Yes.
it's because it's got a lunar calendar, but the lunar calendar and the solar calendar don't sync up; they go out of phase.
Right.
But we're not allowed to let our festivals move out of their seasons. So if you've got a planting festival, it's got to stay in the spring. If you've got a harvest festival, it's got to stay in the summer.
Correct.
So what we do is we allow them to drift a little bit, and then we put in a leap month and put it back. And this has
Right.
all been worked out by the sages over the thousands of years of making sure this
And
calendar
also
works.
prior to the Sanhedrin setting that up, it
Yeah,
used to be by the new moon and the barley harvest.
yeah,
And so they would set it so whenever the new moon and the harvest or the barley's ripen and ready for harvest, that is when we recalculate the period of time of the year. And obviously with Jews all over the world, you
yeah,
can't do that now unless they decided to. I guess they could do it now, right?
yeah,
Because we have internet and all that stuff. But
yeah.
before that, they couldn't have done that. So anyway,
Right,
thought I'd
right.
mention that.
And before the advent of the internet, they ended up developing such an accurate calendar that we can now kind of all have these predict. Apparently, we've predicted all of the leap months and whatever
Right.
until the 6,000th year, which of course it will become redundant anyway. So, but as well, that reminds me that we used to literally go and stand up on top of a hill and go, "Yep, I can see the moon. It's the new month,"
Right. Right.
because this is an agricultural calendar. So all of our
Yes.
festivals, they're planting, they're harvesting, they're bringing fruits. We've got a new year for trees, which is actually when you bring wood to the temple for
Right.
sacrifices. We've got a new year for cows. It reminds you that although the Jewish people have been so separated from agrarian life, really we're
Hmm.
supposed to be farmers. That's what we're supposed to be. We were
Right.
banned from it. Those of us that were in Europe were not allowed to own land. We're not allowed
Right.
to do that. So we got forced into admin.
Hmm.
But really, we're all supposed to go back to Israel, and we're all supposed to come back to keeping Shemitah year and let the land lie fallow and go back to this old-fashioned way of being.
Right.
Because that's the life that the Bible teaches, and that's what the people who are blessed enough to go and live those farming lives.
Yeah.
That's a very
Absolutely.
holy thing. So back into the verses. Vayihi hageshem, and it was the rain. Geshem is rain. Al haaretz. Arba'im yom 40 days for Arba'im Laila and 40 nights. So that's exactly what we had in this thing here. This is the
Right.
40 days and 40 nights that lifts the ark off the earth, right? But Etzem Hayom Hazeh, and this is kind of a slightly strange phrase. Etzem Ayin Tzadi Mem means a bone. So when you say Betzem, you're saying like the heart of something. That's how you say it in Hebrew. You say like the crux of it, the ikar of it. So in the bone of the day, this day, Bo Noach came, V'Shem, V'Cham, V'Yafet, and these are his three sons. Shem, the man of good reputation. That's what having a name that means you've got a good reputation. Cham, which means hot. This is a guy with a bit of a hot temper. And Yafet, which kind of sounds like the word Yafeh, which means beautiful, but actually it means to break apart and shatter. And that he's the antecedent of all of the nations. You know, he became the most people. So this guy ends up becoming all the Shemites.
Right.
The first people, but not the only people, to discover the oneness of God. And then Ham became the Canaanites, and there are no more Canaanites around today. And Yafet became everybody else. So most people are descended from Yafet. B'nai Noach, the children of Noach. V'eshet Noach, and the wife of Noach. V'shloshit neshei v'nav, and the three wives of the sons of his sons, Itam, with them. El Hateva. So this is the moment where all the family goes into the ark. Noach, his wife, three sons, and three sons' wives. So the eight of them went in together, and plus everybody else that went with them, everything else that went with them. Hamer, here, behold, v'kol hachaya, all the life, lamina, to its kind, v'kol habahema, all the big mammals, lamina, to their kind, v'kol haremes, all the crawly things, haromes al haaretz, that crawl on the earth, laminehu, to their kinds, v'kol ha'of, and all the flying things, laminehu, to his kind, kol tzipor, kol kanaf, strange phrase at the end, all birds, all wings. So this collection is strange as well. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the miracle of the Ark of the Noach? Is the miracle that the boat could hold that many animals? Or is the miracle that that many animals could come from the boat? And it's a really interesting question, and it's got me thinking for days, because effectively what we're saying is what are we described goes in? We're described that we get 7 of every kosher animal.
Right.
We get 2 of every non-kosher animal.
Right.
But how fine a distinction we're going to bring down? Like, there are 40 kinds of viper.
Right.
There's like 4,000 kinds of spider. Do we have one of every kind of spider, or is one pair of spiders enough to cover all the spiders? So either way is a miracle. Because if you have this seemingly virtually infinite supply of animals fitting into this boat, that's a miracle. It's a miracle of non-Euclidean physics, right? It's a TARDIS, right? Or have we got one of every kind of farm animal, and one of every like a duck, a pair of ducks, a pair of crows, a pair of this, Actually, the size of the ark, you could get a farm's worth of animals on that boat. But then the miracle
every
is,
animal on Earth is not.
Yeah. Have we got polar bears in here? Like, is that what we're dealing with? Because in all the children's books, we've got cut a hole for the giraffes' necks, right?
Right. And what about the dinosaurs' necks?
Right. Absolutely. So, but then there's 2 ways that God could play this, and I'm interested in whatever way that he would do it. Either that you go, okay, we've got a small collection of animals, but then God is going to proliferate out from that all the variety of the earth that we see today. That's a miracle. Or is it that they just wander in and they just don't run out of space? And I like both. I want to have my cake and eat it.
I agree with you. And let's add just another layer to this. Let's just hypothetically say that Noach was an advanced being and is collecting DNA.
Right.
But
Like a
how do you
yeah,
collect the DNA of every
yeah.
animal that lives on the earth? I mean, just the whole idea is much more miraculous than we can try to describe. But in this is a lesson and a metaphor of understanding that took place. One day we'll all understand, and
Oh
it might
yeah,
be
yeah,
grander than we even can
yeah.
imagine.
A friend of mine. I've got a friend. I like to keep a couple of people around from every religion to
Right.
argue with because
Oh, that's good.
because so I've got a dear
That's
friend.
healthy.
I've been friends with this guy. My mum used to work for his mum when we were like 5 years old. I've known
Okay.
him my whole life, and he's an atheist, and he's my favorite person to fight with. I love
Your
this guy.
favorite atheist.
Yeah, exactly. So he turns around to me. He goes, "Oh, I just read about the Epic of Gilgamesh." I said, "Tell me about the Epic of Gilgamesh." He said, "In the Epic of Gilgamesh, they have the story of the flood." I said, "Of course they do." And he said, "So you guys didn't make it up?" And I said to
Gotcha.
him,
Gotcha.
I said, "My John, I never said we made it up. I said it happened. If it happened, you'd expect to find it in earlier civilizations
Of
passed
course.
down. So in the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's a guy facing a cataclysmic flood, and he collects all of his farm up together and attaches all of the kinim, all of the boxes
Right.
and cages
Right.
together, and he builds an ark, which yeah, and it pretty much describes our thing. And his world is coming to an end. There's a cataclysmic flood, but God tells him beforehand what's going to happen, and he managed to build
Right.
up this thing.
Right.
The Epic of Gilgamesh comes from Ur of the Chasdim.
Hmm.
That's where Abraham comes from.
Right.
So when
And
Abraham comes,
this that tradition and lore also exists in South America and
right,
in
this is the
American
thing.
Indian tribes. I mean, so
Yeah,
it's
everyone's got a
it
flood
happened in
story.
some way or another. It happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and we have things like the Ice Age,
Right.
which is a flood. It's the whole world covered
Hmm.
in water. It happens to be frozen water, but you
Right.
have to have some way of surviving this. So it's in who we are as people, and I think sometimes what the atheists want to do is haggle about the details and go, yeah, but you said his name was Noah. Well, yeah, his name was Noah.
It,
Like
well,
he doesn't. What are you
here's the
arguing about?
thing. It's
Yeah,
immaterial.
yeah,
We have to understand what the core of the story is, and that
yeah,
is mankind
yeah.
corrupted itself.
Yes,
Angels didn't do it, fallen angels didn't corrupt it.
yeah.
They corrupted themselves, and there need to be a restart.
We
It should make us consider that, hey, we could come up to another restart if we're not
Yeah,
careful.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How do we learn from our own mistakes? How do we learn from
Correct.
our ancestors' mistakes? And say, listen, we were given free will and we got cocky. We started to
Right.
believe we could just do whatever we wanted. And you look at society and you think it's not hard to believe that a society can do that.
Oh,
To just
absolutely.
start concocting and twisting their logic to try and justify any kind of thing that a person wants to do and say, well, it's my right as an individual. When did we start worshipping ourselves as individuals?
Ah, yes.
That we're trying, all of us appoint ourselves kings, but whereas it's okay, you don't have to do whatever you want all the time. You're not
Right.
oppressed if you can't
Right.
just do everything all the time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes just be a person. Just
Just be
have a
normal.
family, get a job, and live a life. You don't have to
Right.
be the most impressive person that's ever. Just be a
Right.
person. Just be a
Yeah,
nice person.
absolutely.
Look
Be a nice
after the
person.
old lady that lives down the street. Give a bit of charity.
Right.
Be kind to your spouse.
Live your
Respect.
life.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right.
and seek out the greater intelligence in the universe,
Correct.
which is above us.
Right. And
Don't.
look, for those who seek intelligence and
Mm,
wisdom
mm,
that is out there, and the longer that we live in this postmodern era and research and science and computers, et cetera, we're realizing there is such a breadth of wisdom and knowledge that we're now recognizing how ignorant we are. As modern
yeah.
as we are, we
Wow.
realize how ignorant we are about ancient civilizations and cultures, et cetera, et cetera. Hopefully, we don't make the same mistake again as Noah did, right?
Amen. Amen.
I mean,
And
the generation of Noah. I mean,
yeah. This is one of the kindnesses because You know the idea about the that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
We
absolutely.
never put anyone's eye out.
Never, never.
So the question is, if the Talmud says, you know, this guy lost an eye, he's owed an eye, kind of thing.
Right.
He
It's a
doesn't want an eye.
remuneration. Right.
It's yeah, you're trying to recognize what did the guy lose. If he's a surgeon and he lost an eye, he's lost his livelihood. He's lost his
Right.
ability. You know, if he's a plowman, you can do that job with one eye. You still lost something. You still have pain
Right.
and suffering that you should be remunerated for, but you can still do your job. So it's trying to recognize, to try and understand the loss, you know.
Correct.
And so why does it tell us that this punishment is worthy of death? Why does it punishment that this punishment is worthy of losing an eye or losing a tooth? Because we're trying to understand the value of the person that lost
Correct.
something. It's not
Correct.
about you, it's about them. It's about
And it's not even
understanding their
about the
loss.
punishment, it's about the lesson that there's a
Yeah,
value in creation.
absolutely. So when God shows us a flood and says, look, this level of cruelty, this level of abuse is worthy of us losing our whole planet, we should care about that.
Absolutely.
Not because
Yes.
God is going to
Yes.
wipe us out, but we should
Yes.
care anyway.
Correct.
We should value ourselves and each other. We should
Right.
love ourselves and each other enough that we don't show that kind of violence to each other. That we're in danger of losing our whole planet.
You know, there's a slightly obscure lesson in the Torah that talks about a man who dies between cities. You remember this?
Oh, tell me.
You know, he dies between cities and no one knows him, but they can't leave his bones to just rot out in the forest.
Wow.
That the city that's closest has to take responsibility to come out and do the proper thing to make sure that he's buried and that there is a proper sacrifice that is done
Yes.
to in some way recognize this stranger, the
Yes.
value of that stranger.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's once again, it's not about the law, it's about the fact that we should even consider the most obscure, apparently what appeared to be an obscure human being that is
Yeah.
just laying dead, that there's value in treating that person with respect. And how many countries do we know of that have people that lay in the gutter dead?
Yeah. Wow.
And people
Tragic.
just travel by like nothing's
Yeah.
wrong. So that's what we're talking about. It's learning from these lessons.
Yeah.
It's not to say that there's not some metaphor in it. It's not, we're not saying that everything that is said is so absolutely literal.
Yeah.
It's a broader aspect to this that we should understand.
Absolutely.
Do
Absolutely.
you want to continue on, or do you want to go ahead, because we're probably getting close to time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We can stop there if that's
Okay,
a good
so let's
that's a good
stop
moment.
here.
Yeah.
And guys, just want to remind you, youtube.com, Word of Torah, and then Moshe Teaches at gmail.com. You can't miss it. Also, please subscribe. Subscribe to the video.
And this is personal question. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, tell us, because we're so interested in what you have to think and what you have to say about these things. We'd love to get into a conversation with you about it.
Right. And also, when you add comments down at the below the video, just be patient with us because both of us actually have jobs. And so it's
Yeah.
reading all the text that we get on
Yeah.
all the videos. So just be patient. We'll try to answer you as promptly as we can. So God bless you. And we'll see you guys next week at the same time. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Bye.